Okay, I'm going to show you how to check a car, just the basics, check the oil and the fluids. First thing you have to do is open the hood. Yeah. Every hood opens a little different. So these days there's a catch somewhere underneath your dash. Here it says hood. So just pull on this and that'll release the hood. So you'll notice when I pull on this, the hood will pop up a little bit. Okay, point it out there on the hood. Okay, so that's the first latch. And then see when you come out here, the hood still won't open because there's a second latch. That's like a safety feature in case you accidentally bump the one on the inside. Then this one will still catch it. Each car is different, so you just have to learn how your car works. This one here, there's a little yellow thing here, and I just push that over to the side, and that releases it, so it'll open up. See when you push that, it just moves this thing over. Okay, so when you push this thing over, it moves this over, and then that releases the hood. Okay, so main thing you check is the oil. You should check your oil at least once a month. If you drive more, you should check it every week. If you're on the road every day for work, check it every time you fill up the car. Okay, so just as a quick overview of what you should check, you should check the oil, power steering fluid, antifreeze, washer fluid for the windshield. That's really important, especially in the winter. You get the salt on the windshield, you got to be able to wash it off, so that's very important. Brake fluid. Down here is the transmission fluid, battery cables. Okay, so that's just a general overview of things that you should check. So how do you check the oil? This here is the oil dipstick. Pull it out, wipe it off, and you can see here it says full and empty. This hatched area here, that's the full mark. That would be 1 quart of oil. So if that was down like halfway, that would be a half quart. Okay, so we'll just slide this in here, and you can see that one's full because I just filled it up. If this is real black, that means your oil needs to be changed. You can smell the oil. If that smells burnt, then that means your engine's starting to go. Okay. And I usually do it twice just to make sure I'm getting the right reading. Okay. If you need to put oil in it, that goes in here. You can see here it even says what oil to put in there. You usually put thinner oil in the winter because the oil gets cold and gets thick. You can use thinner oil in the winter, and then you can use thicker oil in the summer. But here you can see there's just saying use this oil all year round. Just look in your car's manual and it'll tell you what oil to use. Power steering fluid, there's not much to checking this. these days you never have to put power steering fluid in. If you get a shot down inside the hole there, you'll be able to see the fluid. Some of them will have a dipstick here. So this one, you just look down inside of it, and then like over here on the side too, you can kind of tell where it's at through the plastic here. See if you look here, you've got these fill lines, and you can just barely see where the fluid is. But in general, if you can see fluid, it's pretty good. Same goes for the antifreeze. You know, you just look down inside there, and if you can see some, it's good. Now the antifreeze is actually in the radiator. Right, we can barely see the radiator here. It's underneath here. You know, that's where the antifreeze is. And I don't even see a radiator cap on this one here. So never open your radiator cap when it's hot, because it'll shoot out. I mean, it'll really gush out. It'll burn your head and your face. So when the radiator here needs more fluid, it pulls it from this thing here. This is the overflow. So that's what this hose is for here. As the radiator needs more fluid, it pulls it from here into the radiator, and vice versa. As it gets hot, if it doesn't need it, it puts it back in here. So this is just like an overflow for the radiator. Washer fluid, you know, there's really no way to check how much is in there. On some cars you can actually see it, but on this one it's way down below, so I just fill it up until it's way up to the top here. If you're on the road, freeway in winter, every day you might use a gallon a day, gallon a week. You know, just depends on how much you use your washers. Okay, brake fluid, there's not really much to check here. You can just see that there's fluid in there. That could probably use some. It should probably be filled up. If your brake pedal inside your car is a little spongy, you know, when you step on it, it goes down the floor. That might be a sign that the brakes are going bad, or that you just need more fluid. So when that's down, what you can do is pull on some cars. You used to be able to pull this out, but I can't even grab that now. And then that would take up the slack if you're low. So, and then down here is the transmission fluid, and that should be checked when the car is running and when it's hot. So you can see here, this little hatched area is smaller, and that's just a pint. It's very important that you don't overfill this. So I'll go ahead and start the car up and we'll check it. While the car is running, don't get close to the fan. You know, your hair or your shirt, your clothes can get caught in the fan, and the fan belts. There's belts rolling around there. Since we're here, this belt here, you know, cars used to have more belts, but now most only have one. There's this belt down on here, and you can just check that, make sure it's not getting frayed, you know, make sure it's tight. If your car squeaks, it's probably just your belt. They have fluid that you can squirt on the belt. It's supposed to stop it from squeaking, but it's probably just best to put a new belt on. And then check the hoses too. Make sure they're not too spongy. Like that hose should probably be fixed. It's really soft. If that springs a leak while you're going down freeway, it'll be an expensive bill. If you travel a lot, hundreds of miles away from home, get a spare belt and keep it in the trunk. Get spare hoses for your car, throw them in the trunk. And then if you break down on the freeway in the middle of nowhere, you've got the hoses and belts to fit your car in case they can't get them at the local shop. When I was on the road a lot in my younger days, I used to change the hoses once a year. These days they make this stuff a lot better. They don't need to be changed every year, but if these days the cars last a lot longer, so the hoses last longer, so you don't need to change them as much. This here is the air filter. They're a little more complicated to fix now. You used to be able to just pop it open and put a new one in, but that should be changed once every couple years. I don't know if I've ever had it done on this car.
If you live in a real dusty climate.
Yeah.
Like Arizona.
Yeah. So I'm not even gonna mess around with that. I think if you go to AutoZone and buy it, they'll put them in for free. But if you get a oil change at Walmart, they'll check all this area and they'll even ask you if you want a new air filter. And last time they asked, I said no, but I don't ever remember putting one in here. So check your battery cables just to make sure they're tight. One time I came out, the car wouldn't start, and these things were just loose. Okay, so let's start it up here. Okay, the engine's not hot, so we really won't get a good reading, but this is good enough, just so you can see how to check it. Make sure there's no belts or fans flying around there that you can get caught on. Or if you have a dress shirt on, don't hit one of the wires there because you'll get really dirty. Okay, so you can see it's full. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see the fluid and you have to check the back of it. It's easier to see. Okay, while the car is running, just kind of glance over it and make sure there's nothing squirting out. There's no gas leak or antifreeze leak. Check the ground on the driveway to make sure there ain't nothing leaking from your car. One time on one of my older cars I had a gas leak and it was squirting right off the top and landing on the top of the engine. And when the mechanic finally caught it, he said to me that I was lucky that the car didn't blow up. You get a tune-up once every couple years, especially if you drive a lot. These days there's really not much to tune up. maybe new spark plugs and new spark plug wires. But those seem to last a lot longer than they used to. Change your antifreeze once every couple years. You know, it's just like changing your oil. Don't try to do it yourself. You know, just bring it to the shop and let them do it. The reason why I say that is because the transmission fluid goes through the radiator. That's how it cools off the transmission fluid. And the pipes inside the radiator can go bad, and then you'll get transmission fluid inside your antifreeze. So it's best not even to mess with that. You know, just let the guys at the shop do it. Plus, as they work on your cars, they're looking for other things too. If you always do the stuff yourself, you'll never spot things that might be going wrong with the car. You know? What happened to me once on an older car is this pipe here was just about to fall off. And I brought it in for oil change and said, hey, the guy said, hey, that one hose is just about to fall off. So he just pushed it back on, tightened it up. You used to have to put water in the batteries, but these days with the newer batteries, you don't have to bother with that. You know, always buy a better battery. I think we can probably see it on this one here. I always buy the diehards. You know, don't go get a cheap battery, because if you know, that starts the car. If your car don't start, you end up getting mugged or robbed or worse. You know, just pull into a Sears or Kmart and tell them to put in a big diehard. You know, at least I think I usually get the ones for 120. This one here was 250. I kind of got carried away with this one, but I wanted a big one. You put the bigger ones in if you're running laptops and phones and things like that off your car. That's why they have the bigger ones. And you can see there's really nowhere to check the water now. You know, there used to be things that you pull off and check the water, but you don't even have to bother with that anymore. Here, check the cables. They sprayed it with the paint so it doesn't rust. If you get a lot of corrosion around here, there's like a white powder. You can pop these off and clean them with a wire brush. There's a special wire brush that you use to clean the top. But these days with the new batteries, that's not as common as it used to be.
And if you have an old car, they used to clean them and put Vaseline on them, keep it from rusting.
Easier.
Yeah, it keeps the terminals from getting wet.
So don't go with the cheap batteries. I know of, you know, you can pull into Walmart and get a battery put in your car for $50. But you're lucky to get a year from it. You know, these here last 5 to 7 years, and I think I've had them last even longer. But I think they're recommending 7 years now. But if you live in a cold area, you know, I put in a new battery once every 5 years at least, because you don't want to be stuck in the middle of the winter with your car not starting. It's always on the coldest day of the year when the battery doesn't have enough power to start the car. And then you're calling the garage. It's 0 degrees outside and there's 100 other people. They're all calling the garage at the same time. So Just throw in a new battery every few years. Okay, now we're going to check the tires.